Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 168. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie, fit and strong as we grow older.
You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. Sign up for our newsletter while you're there.
Today's guest, Pat Bissell, is a friend of mine who has always impressed me with her dedication to fitness. Let's go to the podcast.
Pat Bissell describes herself as a very active, mature woman. She has been active her whole life, always enjoying sports, exercise classes, and strength training for the past 25 years.
Pat has been a longtime friend of mine, and I see her every so often at the gym. Recently, when we talked about some of her workout activities, I thought that many of our podcast listeners would enjoy hearing from her. Welcome, Pat. Thanks so much for joining us on today's podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that you enjoy playing sports. Can you start out by telling us a little bit about your experiences with tennis?
Oh, tennis. Yes. Well, when I moved back to Hudson in the 90s, I had some friends that introduced themselves and some from past times when I lived in Hudson. And they were going to the tennis club to join and learn how to play tennis. And so I said, I'm up, sign me up. So I was 40 years old when I started playing. And then that led to competition pretty in the first year. And I took a small hiatus to go back to work full time. And then when I went part-time again, I went back to competing. So I have been competing in tennis. I'm not a very high level, but the beauty about tennis is you are ranked. So you play people of your level, and then they also have age brackets. So I keep aging up in my competition. For a while there, I still will compete against the 18-year-olds because it's lumped together when I play mixed doubles with my now 40-year-old son. So I love it. I'm totally addicted to it.
That's so cool.
It's a good thing to be addicted to.
Wow. How do you stay in shape for that?
Well, that's interesting you ask because that is my ulterior motive for strength training. Not cardio so much because I get a lot of cardio when I play tennis, but I do additional cardio. But the strength training I've had different physical therapists along the way guide me for different types of injuries, not all tennis related, but rehabbing has taught me specific exercises for different body parts, and then just researching. And so I do that strength training. That's my number one thing. Then sometimes I do the silver sneakers classes. Probably have done that about the last 5 or 6 years at our club. And you can go at your own level, which I really like, because when they do the strength training, you might have bigger weights if you're doing that part. And then they also do cardio, and you can go at your own speed. If you can barely lift your legs, you have people in there, that can barely lift. And it's just, I love the diversity of people in there. And of course, they're all close to my age. So that's another thing.
It occurs to me that we should tell people, because not everyone of our listeners Silver Sneakers is a program through Medicare that allows you to go to gyms and take classes or work out there.
Right. And they call it silver sneakers because I think you're eligible once you're 65 and over, but I'm not positive. It might be 50.
I think it is. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're geared for the people that are older. Not that I couldn't do the other classes. I just have kind of gravitated as I was rehabbing and working my way back up to strength training, and have made some friends there. And so it's definitely easier to go and stick to a program when you have friends even when I do individual weight training in the other part of the gym, that I set my own and I do at my own pace. A lot of men there, but I have made a few friends like Chris, and you see people and you just gravitate towards the people that, encourage you.
Yeah. Other than tennis, are there other sports that you really enjoy?
Well, I'm actually a better golfer than I am tennis player. I mean, I don't walk very much anymore because I still play 18 holes, but I started playing that when I was a kid. So, that the cardio isn't there, but you definitely, when you're out there 5 hours, you're burning calories.
For sure.
You're twisting and turning. And my husband had just had one knee surgery, and his game suffered because of his knees. He couldn't twist and torque the way you need to. So strength training also adds to that. You can strengthen those legs and the different parts of your legs that you need to for that sport, as obviously as well as tennis.
Do you play in a league or do you play competitively golf?
I do not play competitively. I do play in a league. We're kind of a renegade league. Somebody set it up, and we have our own little 15 people, and we travel all over the Northeast Ohio area. One lady sets up at our request, sets up tee times from middle of May through the middle of September. We go every week, obviously, if it's not raining, but we have a certain day, and it's fun because we call it happy golf. There's no pressure. I used to play in a league competitively, but actually it interfered with my tennis competition day. So I kind of morphed out of that. And now I do this fun league, but we don't have prizes or anything. Just fun.
It is more fun when you're with people that you know, and it becomes kind of your social life too.
Absolutely. So we do lunch and we celebrate birthdays, and yeah, we do all that. It's very fun.
That's a good way to add some social aspects into, besides just being fit or whatever, there's a social aspect to it. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. It feels more like
absolutely.
a lifestyle,
Yeah. Yeah. And I foresee myself liking golf a whole lot better once I can't play tennis anymore. It's a long time to be out there. I mean, if you have when we play threesomes, it's fun because we clip along much quicker than when there's four of us. And we play threesomes a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it speeds it up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So has being fit and strong been a goal of yours throughout your whole life, or what? Were you physically active as a young person?
I think it's kind of become my way of life because I have been active my whole life. Even when I was a child, my parents could never get me inside. My brother and I played out till in the dark. We used to have streetlights in the suburb of Chicago, but I loved everything. You name it. I played football with the boys when I was little. I skateboarded back when the skateboards were metal wheels, and we lived across from a school and it had a nice hill. I would go down the sidewalk. I taught myself how to ride a unicycle, rode it all the way downtown. We used to live in Glenelg, and I can remember that I rode in a parade.
Oh, wow.
I just, I played, I'm too old, so there was no organized sports in school. So all the sports I had to gain through my family, or they were all rec type things. I also grew up, as I said, in Chicago, and we had a lake. So the big thing was speed skates. Everybody wore speed skates. You didn't dare wear, figure skates, or you'd get, looked at and ostracized. So I grew up on speed skates all winter long, and my mom would drop us off at the lake, and we'd skate until she'd come and get us for dinner. Give us money for a hot dog and hot chocolate, and they had a fire inside a little pavilion inside, and goes on and on. I played night games outside, and a little bit of slow pitch softball that was popular. I've never been a big runner. Oh, I swam on the swim team when I was little. Well, all the way through 15 till we moved to Aurora, Ohio. No, I've never sat still. And then, of course, you go through phases in your life. When I worked full time right out of college before I had kids. I don't know I don't remember what I did. I know I did some kind of jazzercise, and we were at a Y, and I swam at a Y, and I swam at apartments. We had a complex, and I remember swimming like my water broke, and I swam right up to 5 days before my son was born, my first son.
Wow.
And then it's just morphed into, all right, now I need to do this because I'm, getting older. Look, my body's changing. I'm gaining weight. I'm tired. So I knew that if I took care of myself, probably included losing some weight there in certain years, when you go through that menopause thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's real. It's real. Don't let anybody kid you that it's not, right?
We all said that. We've said that very enthusiastically. Yeah.
Yeah, we are familiar with how everything seems to change, and you have to take the bull by the horns and stay physically active, or you're not, right?
Yeah, and it can sneak up on you quickly. You've got those kids at home and they wear you out, and then,
So, besides playing tennis and golf, you also work out the gym. You mentioned a little bit about strength training. Can you tell us a little bit more about, do you work out in a group when you strength train? You said, or is it just all solo? Do you use machines? And if so, which machines? How do you figure out what to do?
When I do the machines, I do it by myself, not in a group. Although in the group, I'll just do a little aside here, remind me to go back to what I was saying. It's called TRX, which is a pull machine. There are straps, and they do have a class twice a week that teaches you how to do that. And then you can do those on your own. But that's the only strength training. And that's a wonderful workout. I mean, it has to be at the right time. And it isn't always for my schedule, but I do like that class. But then the rest of the strength training, as I said earlier, PT gave me some different exercises and machines. I did hire a trainer twice. One taught me machines, different for my different body parts. And I worked with Ben probably, I don't know, 8, and then COVID hit. Maybe 8 times I worked with him. And then I tore my Achilles. I was in a boot, and then I worked with another trainer that was at our club. She said, "Hey, if you need help, I'm knowledgeable in working machines with the boot." So I hired her, and she did all kinds of different strength training. And I worked with her probably about 10 times. And that's the thing. Once you work with a trainer a little bit, you get the idea of what machines to use. They tell you exactly how to use them, how to change your weights. And I see a lot of people doing the machines wrong. So I'm really glad I had a trainer to teach me a couple specific things that are universal. And once you start doing it, you know to do it correctly. And then I do the exercise classes, as I said before, and those have some free weights, and then they have cardio section, and they go back and forth, and they're usually about 45 minutes. My weight training procedure, sometimes I do in a little room. I do some balance. There's also the TRX bands in there. There's big exercise balls, so I might incorporate that. But I do use machines, and there's specific body parts that I do.
What exercises do you find the most beneficial? If you were going to give us suggestions on how to stay fit and strong, what workouts or what would you recommend for us?
Well, I just had a friend I was trying to bring her into it. She wanted to know how to use the machine. So, I mean, I'm not a trainer, but I certainly have done it enough years and had enough guidance. So I was showing her a few upper bodies and a few lower body, and then of course your ab workout. But my primary focus is on strengthening my legs, keeping them strong. I have a total hip replacement in 21. So I do some of the strength training for that. I have no problem at all. As I said, I'm playing competitive tennis again. And I'll just think of my, the front of my legs, the back of my legs, my calves, my ankles. Then I'll think of my abdomen. That's probably the one I don't do enough on. I do some. And then, of course, your shoulders are a big thing. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing for them. Your back, your deltoids and the back of your shoulders, your lats. Then, of course, your triceps and your biceps are huge as we age. And by the way, I just turned 70 this week. So
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. You age, those triceps, they get wiggly, and then you get you get wrinkled anyway, even if you are strong. So, I try to do that. And then if I have a body part that's weak, I might lay off for a while. If it hurts at all, I stop, and then I build back up to it. So my neck and shoulders, I do certain machines for that too.
For your neck? You have something you could do for your neck?
It would be the thing that I think at the top of your shoulder that I think it's called what's that? A deltoid right there?
Oh, yeah, I think
Goes up
so.
into your neck.
Like
Yeah.
behind your clavicle.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
That
all.
very
part
top of
it.
your back, top of your shoulder kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then that ties into your neck for sure, because I, over the years, did a whole lot of stripping on wallpaper, and I ended up at the chiropractor, and he gave me some exercises for that.
Yeah, that part is where I carry my tension, and I do a lot of exercises around my neck or top of my shoulders that the muscles pull on my neck if I don't keep them aligned right.
Yeah. Do you do a machine for that or not?
No, I use more isometric kind of things, pushing against the wall certain ways, doorways, being
Yeah.
able to get my shoulders all the way back, just a variety of things because I have a lot of tension right in my shoulders, and that affects my neck.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's funny. Everything's connected, like you said,
Yeah. From your toe to your head.
You had a hip replacement, and that has not affected your tennis playing.
No, no. I mean, but part of the reason is, my strength training.
Yeah.
I strengthened it, and actually my hip was easier to rehab than my Achilles, because when I was in the boot for 6 weeks, the atrophy in that calf was unbelievable in 6 weeks. And that's still not back. I mean, I can, do all the exercises, but you can visibly see that it's not as strong as my left calf. But I keep working at it and doing all the things that the PT told me to do. But no, I think I'm actually think I'm a little faster on the court than I was prior to all that. I had 3 surgeries on that leg, so I think I'm a little faster because I've diligently rehabbed.
Yeah. And a lot of that is strength training, isn't it?
Yes, most of it is. Yep.
Pat, how do you structure your workout week? Like, do you have certain days you do certain things, or does it depend on the weather or what you're feeling like? How do you structure things?
I structure things around tennis. You can imagine that. So I've discovered that my legs aren't strong enough. I get wobbly if I try to strength train before I play tennis. So I usually do weight training. My goal is every other day. They say you need a day to recover after you strength train. So ideally would be, tennis for cardio, day of strength training every other day. And I don't play tennis 4 days a week year round, but some weeks I do, some are more. I usually do it in the mornings because I'm fresher and I have more focus and more strength. If I have another activity, some days, if I strength train, I will walk for cardio or do some other activity outside the gym if it's summer and it's nice. We have lots of lakes and paths here in Northeast Ohio. So, to get out and do that is a piece of cake. You don't have to really even think about it to find a place to hike and walk. So I do that. And then if I don't have tennis and I feel like doing a class with strength training in it, sometimes I'll do that. But I usually don't lift ever 2 days a week because I do whole body all at once. I do upper body and lower body, and I usually alternate machines. When it's not real crowded, you can get on one machine, do one set, get on the leg machine, do another set, back to the same one you were doing, back and forth till I have my 3 sets in. If it's crowded, sometimes that's hard to do, but usually the times I go, it's not.
That's great.
You just mentioned injuries, and that's something that I think we all deal with as we age, and injuries do derail our workout plan sometimes. So do you have any tips on how you continue to stay strong and active during challenging times?
Well, you certainly have to be careful. You can't go too fast, too much. If you just have to be very controlled about it. That's both times, I think, after injuries, that's when I hired a trainer to help me get going and know. And then also the physical therapist, just to help me get to the right point. Okay, now you're going to increase a little bit. You can go a little bit more. When I had I had a torn hamstring, and that was the hardest to rehab. I had to go on crutches for 6 weeks. And then I wasn't, you just have to go slow and you listen to your body. I mean, if something hurts and it's irritated, just stop, and give it a rest, wait a couple days or try another activity, a different activity to takes the stress off of that particular body part. And like I said, I just motivated to get back to my normal routine and my sports that I love so much. So that's always been my motivation. Now, if you don't have something you love, then it's definitely a harder thing. But you could keep telling yourself, "Hey, I'm doing this for my own, so I'm not sedentary." If you have young people in your life, you want to keep up with them and be able to share activities, and it's really important to keep that social aspect. And if you're sedentary, then you're probably not going out very much. So
Right.
hopefully people can encourage themselves with some kind of motivation, whatever it be.
I was just talking to someone when I was at my gym that she said, I've noticed as I've gotten older that it's really important that I warm up before I start my exercises. So she said, I used to just be able to go out there and, do some squats. She said, now if I don't warm up, I don't do my squats so well.
Yeah, it's very important, especially on all the senior classes that I take. They do a wonderful little warm up always. And sometimes if you get there early, you can ride a bicycle for 5-10 minutes, a sedentary bike, or walk their track. Yes, warm up is huge. And I learned that in PT, how important it is. And of course, tennis, you're on your own to warm up, but I play on a 65 and over team. And you get into the lobby before we go out on the court, and everybody's doing jumping jacks, leg stretches on the steps, just warming up in the little lobby area, because we all know we need to.
Yeah. It's probably the best way not to pull a muscle, right?
Yeah. Or a tendon.
Or a tendon. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we were just talking about motivation, and, staying motivated can be a challenge for some of us, always looking for inspiration and ways to stay motivated. So do you have any advice for us on staying healthy and exercising, even when you don't quite feel like it?
Well, again, I just tell myself, you know what, weight. I've always been conscious about my weight. Actually, I'm a lifetime member of Weight Watchers. I'll tell myself, hey, if you don't get up off the couch, if you do get up off the couch, you can eat a little more. Whatever motivates you. You can have that cookie or whatever you feel. If you get up and get off the couch, you might feel better because you go get some fresh air, even if you're dragging yourself, and it's okay to walk half a mile and come home. You don't have to always do a giant workout. And so when I don't feel like it, that's what I'll say. I'll tell myself, all right, let's just go down the street and around the loop and back, which, is little less than a mile. So I think you take it in small steps to motivate yourself, and then you find a passion, something that really helps you, and you keep reverting back to that. And even days you don't feel like it, like I said, just little bits, get off the couch and track it. Keep track of it. Put a journal down if you're really not motivated, a motivated person, and figure out, hey, yesterday I walked 1/4 mile. Let's see if I can do a 1/2 mile today, and that type of thing. With all the apps, you can track or minutes, go by minutes. Today I did 10 minutes. Tomorrow, maybe I can do 15. That I think that's being a retired teacher, you have to give people and students that need it, you have to give them baby steps. You have to build it. You have to scaffold it, as we call it in the professional world. You scaffold what they're capable of doing, and then you build on that, like going up a scaffolding.
That's a good way of looking at it. So baby steps, find a passion, and keep track of it. That's good. Thank you.
So you just sort of mentioned this about weight issues. I was going to ask you, have you ever had to deal with weight issues? It sounds like maybe yes. So, and has been keeping active been enough, or do you pay attention to what you're eating, that kind of thing?
Yes, I did have a time that I had gained quite a bit of pounds, nothing that wasn't manageable, but I couldn't lose it by myself. So I ended up, I don't even know what year it was. It was probably about 20 years ago, in that menopause thing. I put that weight on, even though I was as active as I normally was, maybe not as active as I am now, but, definitely was playing tennis and doing, some strength training. It wasn't enough. So yes, so I ended up going to my first Weight Watcher meetings, and and just kind of went back and forth. But the answer is yes, I still do keep track of it. Not always. If I, now I've gotten smart enough. If I gain 10 pounds, I don't let it go back to any more than that. And I start paying attention and tracking again. But, in the best case scenario is don't even let it get to be 10 pounds. You just constant battle. And when I was a kid, I was always very, very small and little. And I didn't weigh much at all. So that was a rude awakening when I hit my mid 40s to suddenly be overweight because a lifetime. I mean, even when I was real young, they gave me an appetite stimulant back in the day because I was so little. It wasn't a growth hormone, but they did something to my mom was an RN, so I guess I was in good hands.
Yeah.
The doctor wouldn't pull anything past her, but yeah, so I've always liked to eat. So now I keep track of it and try to make wise choices.
You track your food? You track
I do.
And what do you use for tracking?
I use the Weight Watcher app.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course that makes sense.
And once you're a lifetime member, if you weigh in once a month, and you make your goal, you can be with 2 pounds of your goal. You don't have to pay. So that's been my motivation. I've just started back about 6 months ago doing it again. And it's made a big difference. Once again, I was motivated. I wanted to lose 5 pounds because my team went to playoffs in another state, Midwest playoffs. And I wanted to lose 5 pounds before I went there, just figuring I'd be a little faster, a little healthier. So I did that, started my Weight Watcher app again.
So do you eat in a certain way, like vegan or dairy, non-dairy? Are there any certain things that are sort of off limits, or how do you eat?
No, I eat pretty normal. No, I have no restrictions. That's part of the problem. No, but
Okay.
I mean, we eat a lot of vegetables. I mean,
A lot of vegetables. Okay.
yeah, a lot of vegetables, fruit every day of some sort. We don't eat a lot of red meat, but we do eat red meat once in a while. I mean, I don't eat when I eat a pasta or even if it's a grain. Well, grains usually are like lentils and so forth, and Weight Watchers aren't any points. So, but I usually measure what I eat. So I don't eat too many potatoes, and I don't use a lot of butter. I found this is kind of interesting. I found a place that sells vinegars, all the infused ones at Olive My Heart, and it sells infused oils, olive oil. It's all olive oil and fresh balsamic vinegar, red and white. And I found that if you use certain vinegars, straight vinegars, whatever they are, like I have a pomegranate, so it's infused, so it probably has a few calories in it, but in the vinegar. But I put that on potatoes in lieu of butter.
Oh, you put balsamic vinegar,
Yeah,
flavored on
yeah.
your potatoes.
Yeah, the sweet potato is awesome. You don't need even any butter. It's just some guy was there at the store buying that. I said, "Hey, how's that pomegranate quince?" And he said, "Oh," I go, "What do you do with it?" And he said, "Oh, I put it on my sweet potatoes." And I'm like, "Oh, so I got it and tried it. And I love it."
Oh, I'm going to have to try that.
And I put it in my plain Greek yogurt, no fat Greek yogurt, and I put vinegar in there with berries, and then like 2 tablespoons of granola, whatever kind you like, and that makes it sweet. The no fat yogurt. And if your berries aren't sweet, especially this time of year, they aren't super sweet.
Right. Well, that sounds really good. So, like, if you are having a really busy day and you come home, and do you have a go-to meal that is like healthy that you just make that when you get home? Like, is there a certain meal that you put together?
No, but not really. But I try to have, like I said, we have a lot of vegetables, and then all winter long I make vegetable soup. And now that my husband's around more, it goes really fast. I mean, I always put cruciferous vegetables in it. Like I have cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage in it this week. I just finished making it actually. So that if I have that, that's my go-to. If I'm starving, I will. And then I also try to have a protein. Like now I have X amount of containers frozen with turkey. So I pull out one container, cut up the turkey, throw it in the soup, and that'll be my go-to. In the summer, we don't have soup. I'll just try to have vegetables cut up or a salad or some kind of protein too. I mean, maybe a light cheese stick. Cheese is my nemesis. I try not to have too much around because, I can eat 5 slices and 5 crackers in no time. So try not to do, if I do it, I do a light mozzarella cheese or some cheese stick, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Go-to. And we have lots of nuts right now. Jeff went and bought 5 different kinds of nuts and put them in containers. So I've been snacking on those a little bit.
So you take the way you buy them and then you break them into smaller containers, sort of a single serving type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, if you had any final or any words of wisdoms for our listener? What might they be? What could we do to improve ourselves?
Well, I'll, repeat that. Find a motivation, find something you love that will keep you healthy, whether it be the way you eat, the way you exercise, even socializing. If you can find, a way to get that in your life every day, that's what I would say is the most important thing, whatever it takes to motivate you, whether it be food or an activity or, to try to get to be able to interact with somebody differently or, like a grandkid, you want to be able to, go outside and throw the ball to them or whatever it is that motivates you to have that be your driving force.
Remembering things like that, what your why is, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, playing tennis is your why at times. So that motivates you to go to the gym and do your strength training.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's it's going to be a real sad day when I'm not able to play tennis anymore. But I'll tell you what, I played with a lady this week. She's 86. I couldn't believe how well she moved. I asked her again, how old are you? And she told me, because I told her I was in a new decade. She goes, oh, 60? I'm like, no, I'm 70. It was a hoot. And so then the door was open for me to ask her how old she was. And, I mean, I was shocked that she, she's not, it's just amazing. And I told her, you're an inspiration to me. And when I play against people like that, I'm just like, no, was she able to compete? No, she doesn't compete, but she plays on a regular basis with lots of different people. And she plays with some men too.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just have to ask you one more thing because, we talk about tennis a lot. What about pickleball? I've heard a lot of people playing pickleball. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's, if it motivates you and you like it, you go for it. I mean, are you asking me if I do it? No, I've played it when we were in Florida for a month. I played pickleball because I didn't know anybody to play tennis. And it's good, but there's a lot of people that play it. And the number one thing, they wear the wrong kind of shoes. So they fall or they trip. You got to wear court shoes. Can't go out in your running shoes. They don't stretch and they don't warm up. You got to do all those things as you age. And even if you're not, the young people go out there and they get hurt.
That's a good point. I have heard more people getting injured playing pickleball.
Yep. Because it's some fast movement and you lurch and those tendons aren't warm. And, you've got to, that's another thing I'll say to anybody. Don't think you're just going to go off into the sunset and do something big and grandiose. You got to do baby steps. You got to warm up. You got to walk. Back to walking that quarter mile. Walking is a wonderful way to warm up.
Oh, yeah.
I go walk my cul-de-sac.
I just thought of another question I meant to ask you earlier. Do you do anything for balance?
Yes, I do. The senior classes do a whole lot of balance stuff.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and you have a chair in front of you. I mean, it's phenomenal. And then I did the Bosu ball in PT. And then I don't go out of my way to do that because it's annoying. But it's really good for me. Again, there's a few exercises too that facilitate that balance. So focus on those, but it's so important.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they ask me now. You do any kind of physical, have you fallen in the last year? I said to somebody, well, at one point I said, yeah, I fell on the tennis court. They were, well, that doesn't count. They want to know if you're falling when you stand up and you're just tripping over yourself.
Yeah, I got into that. Yes, I get asked that now too. Have you fallen in the past year? And I've said things like, well, yeah, I fell, like when the dog ran after a squirrel and I wasn't paying attention. Or they're like, oh no, we don't mean that.
Yeah. So balance is important as well. And no matter how old you are, the better balance you have when you're young, it will carry over.
Right. It's something that you really want to be cognizant of because without your balance, it's hard to do other things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it starts to go when you're a senior. I'm not sure why, but just like your skin, why does your skin just all shrivel up?
I don't know.
loss of collagen, loss of lots of things.
Got to keep drinking water, right?
Yeah, that's huge. They keep track of that in Weight Watchers. You can keep track of that.
Oh, how much water you have?
Yeah, you're supposed to. I drink a ton of water, so I don't keep track because I'm always drinking water.
Thank you so much for talking with us today. And I did want to ask you if our listeners wanted to reach out to you? Can they follow you somewhere or find you online, or should they just send their questions to us and Chris will contact you?
I don't have any followers. I don't do anything online other than a little bit of Facebook, but
Okay. If someone wants to ask you a question about tennis or something else, they can just email Chris or me and we'll get hold of you.
yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. And then I can get in if they want to, continue the conversation, that's fine too. Then I can step out that way. Sure.
Well, that's great. We sure do appreciate you sharing, so many details of things and, appreciate you being on the podcast today. So thanks very much.
Well, I thank you guys for being the facilitators, and that's awesome that you do this, and hopefully somebody will be interested in what I had to say. And even if it touches one life, as an educator, that's what you say. If you touch one kid's life, it's been a win-win.
Yep.
Great.
That's right.
Great. Well, thanks so much. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I really admire Pat, and I love how she talks about taking small steps, especially, when you're recovering from something or starting something new, that even a half mile and come around just down the street kind of thing. Like, we've all gone through ups and downs in our workout journey, and she really makes a lot of sense.
One thing about that is that she is very willing to use experts to get help from people outside. She talks with trainers and physical therapists and follows their advice, and that seems to really work for her. And many of us tend to not do that.
Yeah, it's easy to power through and then wish that you had done something a little differently. I know for myself, I've had some injuries over the years, and it was the physical therapy and the trainers that really got me going again. And then, you learn from that. I have a whole list of exercises that I do, warm-ups and things like that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I thought that she made me think about was that when you really enjoy something, whether it's tennis, like for Pat, or running or pickleball, if it really helps you, it helps motivate you in other ways. You really want to be able to do your best at what it is you love to do, so you're willing to do those other things. I thought that was
Right.
we keep saying that, find what you love to do and do that. But
Yeah. Well, when you tie it with socializing, and I guess that you not only have a partner in crime when you're doing your workouts, but it definitely lifts your spirits, and I don't know, it's just a great way to stay fit and active, is to do something that you enjoy with a friend or friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I did think it was interesting, her comment about pickleball, because I will say I have noticed a number of people saying, "Oh, I got injured at pickleball."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's easy to do that. Especially you don't warm up. And she made a really good point about the types of shoes you're wearing. It's just like if you're wearing things that stick too much, that's a problem.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting because it's so popular right now. But, just because you can run out and do it anywhere doesn't mean that you maybe shouldn't do some prep work for it.
Oh yeah, definitely with whatever we're doing, and keeping track, having a journal, sometimes if you have a program that you use with your wristwatch for fitness, that'll keep track for you automatically. But, it's nice to see progress. It really is.
Right. Absolutely. If you're listening, let Chris and me know if you have some thoughts on our talk with Pat, or how you're doing on your own fitness journey.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a message at becomingellie.com, and you can also find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook. And oh, by the way, we have a private Facebook group where we encourage and motivate each other, so consider joining that as well. We're also on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you enjoyed today's podcast, I think you will also like listening to Reinvention Rebels with Wendy Battles. Wendy is a curious soul who loves to talk to people and understand their experiences. She believes that reinvention is a natural part of life and something that many of us have done numerous times. Listen to the Reinvention Rebels podcast with stories of unapologetic women, 50 to 90 years young, who have boldly reimagined life on their own terms to find renewed purpose and possibilities.
Listen to the latest episode at reinventionrebels.com. You might remember we interviewed Wendy in episode 144 of the Fit Strong Women Over 50, and that was a great talk. I know that her podcast is definitely worth checking out.
It was great talking with you today, Chris. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.